Awesome. So I hope this recording goes well, but thank you for participating in the icebreaker. And now we'll get started on the actual content. So we'd first like to start off with just, stating the Hack for Impact values, and that they are community, transparency, and diversity and inclusion. Community, we really aim to create a culture of friendship and support for our members. And we are all about, serving our community, trying to see if we can contribute in any way possible. And while working with our nonprofit partners, we really aim to learn more about them and share their mission with local students. Second is transparency. We really strive to communicate openly with each other, our nonprofit partners, and our community. And some conversations might be difficult to have, as you might encounter along development, but it is our responsibility, especially as product managers, to facilitate them openly and to just, have open conversation. And lastly, diversity and inclusion. We take pride in being a multidisciplinary organization because solving complex social problems requires a diverse set of skills. And all the products we make are also for a diverse range of users. And we really try to take that into account and, use our diverse skill set for our diverse users. So yeah. Hello. Oh,
Yeah, so next we'll be going over like the general product manager responsibilities. And those include like managing a team, organizing the product requirements, and then measuring success throughout the whole process. Yeah, so managing a team. So PMs bridge the gap between all the members involved in making the nonprofit project, and that includes the nonprofit representatives themselves, the tech lead, the developers, and also the developers. And just being able to maintain good communication, be a role model for them, and be able to show up like consistently and be a good leader so that way everyone like stays excited about the project and wants to like continue going forward with it. And then also it's really important for managing a team to like schedule and lead the bi-weekly meetings, and that makes it easy so that way everyone knows they're on the same page. I think like something I learned from like being one of the tech leads was that like switching the days of the meetings, switching the times of the meetings, when we canceling a meeting, that makes people kind of like forget what they're doing, and just keeping consistent throughout is like really important. Yeah, organizing product requirements. So one of the first things you'll be doing as a PM is meeting with the nonprofit, getting to talk to them, learn about their their goals, the problems they're facing, kind of the features that they'd want in the product to be able to see their vision through. And once you understand all that, you'll be creating a product requirements document, which is a PRD. We'll be going into more detail next week. And it kind of outlines all the main features and kind of goes into detail so everyone knows what is expected throughout the whole 2-month process. And finally, project roadmaps, just creating like a rough timeline of when everything will be worked on. So that way it's really easy to measure success to see if you're on track and everything like that. And finally, measuring success and satisfaction. So it's kind of creating product usage statistics, and not just at the end, but throughout the process. So you can figure out if you're on track, if you're actually building a product that solves problems rather than building a product that you think is cool versus actually usable. So kind of some things to look at is loading time. How quickly does the page load? Does it spend like several minutes? Because then in that case, it's not usable at all. Accessibility, we were working with like older citizens and just making sure the text is big enough so everyone can see it. Is the site easy to navigate, and just being able to talk to the users and make sure everything is where it needs to be. Also keeping track of like number of users. Will there be 10 people using your site or hundreds? That makes like a huge difference how you design it. And obviously there's lots of more. You'll be figuring that out along the way, and we'll be probably giving you more guidance as we go
along. Awesome. So yeah, as we mentioned before, one of the biggest responsibilities of product managers is talking to the nonprofit partners. And the product managers are the main liaisons, that's how you say it, between the developers and the nonprofit. And it's really important to just make sure everyone is on the same page about everything, because it is taking months of development, and sometimes things do get lost in like the constant sprint cycles, and people, kind of lose focus of what like the main purpose of this is. So we often try to focus, or like we really try to encourage of recentering yourself by asking like, oh, is this really solving a problem? And like kind of coming back to that question every 1 to 2 weeks to make sure the progress is actually doing something for the nonprofit's pain point. Um, and a big part of that is, again, integrity and transparency. And transparency, I mentioned before, there's like kind of this phrase that gets tossed around in product management, or like especially in the nationals resource, where it's like under promise and over deliver. And that kind of message, it's pretty cool in like kind of achieving, great customer satisfaction, because you're exceeding their expectations, and you're like kind of, yeah, and then you're just like going above and beyond, you'd say. But honestly, I take that kind of message with a grain of salt, because you don't really want to under promise and like not be transparent. You don't want to be like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do this. Oh, but surprise, we actually did. It's all really like, I think our main goal is to, again, be transparent and be honest with what we can achieve versus what's not feasible, and also to have the integrity to be honest with them. And as soon as there are like kind of roadblocks in the way during development, which you will probably come across with, it's really important to just express it to the nonprofit as openly as possible and as quickly, just because you want to establish that trust. And it's really, again, it's, things get lost throughout emails, and then you are the main communicator, and without your presence, they'll feel kind of lost, and it'll just not be a great time for everyone. So yeah, just be truthful, be honest, and they'll definitely appreciate that in the long run. And okay, we kind of mentioned this before, but we really want to take a nonprofit first approach. We are not experts in the nonprofit's problem space. And, in the grand scheme of things, we are getting introduced into their lives, and then for a few months, and then we give them another product to deal with. And we ideally, it is helping them, but we also want to try to understand what they're going through as much as possible, and within the short time frame we have, so we can ensure that it's truly benefiting, instead of making like another program that they have to like juggle around. And then we also want to fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So throughout development, the nonprofit will probably ask for more features, or have a change their mind, might want to change the requirements. And we definitely want to accommodate that as much as possible. Our focus should not be towards like the beautiful web app that we're making, or a bunch of fancy features that you might want to add, or the developers want to add. Again, it's all about focusing on the nonprofit's pain point and seeing what they need, not what we want to make necessarily. And yeah, your job is to understand the nonprofit, their mission, and the problems they face to build a better product. And our focus and that is never solely on the solution. So more like logistic wise, you'll probably be using email and Zoom a lot for this role. So for emailing, that's probably like your go-to communication with the nonprofit representative. And of course, it's always best to try and answer any and all the questions from the client, and to respond within 24 hours is, best practice. And like I mentioned before, you should really update partners with changing logistics, even if they aren't positive, because all about that transparency. And then Zoom. So again, we work with all kinds of users, and not all of them have as much technical knowledge as we do. So some of them, even like in this age of pandemics, aren't that familiar with Zoom, and we can't really assume that they do know. So it's nice to include all the instructions for how to use Zoom prior to any meetings you may hold, and try to have your camera on as much as possible, just so they establish, personal connection. They know who they're actually talking to. And of course, come prepared and respectful of their time because, nonprofits are so busy and they are taking time out of their day to meet with us. And we just really want to do right by them.
I had a couple of things to add. So one of the things, respond to emails within 24 hours. Someone told me this year that if you don't know the answer, that's completely okay. You can say, I will follow up with that and let you know as soon as I have an answer. And that way, instead of leaving them on red and like hearing nothing, that's like a perfectly valid thing just to respond, say you'll get back later. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's a great point. And then, yeah, how to talk to your team.
Cool. I'll take that over.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this is a fun leadership quote I found. It says, remember the difference between being a boss and a leader. A boss says go and a leader says let's go. So I think that's like really kind of showcasing what we want as a product manager. We want to be leading either by example, by the words you do, by like just motivating and encouraging others. And you don't want to like micromanage everyone and kind of just show up, tell everyone what to do and leave. So I just want to hear from you, like, well, first, I want to hear from everyone. Have you ever led a team or been in charge of anyone before? Like it could be sports, it'd be for a club. We can go around. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, cool. Well, this is a perfect example. And if you haven't, like, hopefully this lets you have the confidence to do it. And I think everyone is always scared leading. It's never easy. But, if you show up confident and you know your stuff, everyone will like really like and respect you. And I think, does anyone want to share an example where they had like a good leader, like maybe a mentor, a manager, a teacher? You can go around.
Sure. Yeah, I've had quite a few. I feel like it's exactly that quote.
Yeah.
I think I've had bad leaders and I've had good leaders, and I've been in roles of leadership, and I found that you have this depiction of like, they're like, you do this, you go here, and it's like not the way teams work. You want to be like in the trenches with people.
Yeah.
You're trying to lift everybody up, and I feel like a good leader is more just strategizing how to get their team to function the best as they are. And that's how you avoid that micromanaging. Because micromanaging is going to help anybody. It's just going to make them feel smaller. And your product won't get finished with like as much love and like,
I guess one example I had is like my manager at work. Like he made sure to like frequently check in with me, and he's like, "Oh, how are you doing? Do you have any questions?" And then he would also give me like life advice, and it like made me really know like he cared about me as a person, not just a number, not just like, "Oh, is this person on my team?" It's like, "Oh, it's an actual person. Let me like get to know her." And I thought that was like really special.
I think I was gonna say like a similar example where it's like I had a higher up or like kind of my overseer, but they actually like when they take the time to just like not talk about work and being like, hey, like, how are you really doing? Or just like, what's going on? It's like it makes me feel like a lot more seen and appreciated, and in doing so, it like kind of helps with like that unifying environment in the team. It's like, oh, they genuinely do care about my well-being, which shouldn't be as hard to find as it is.
Anyone else? Cool. Well, hopefully everyone on your team says you're inspiring role models and leaders afterwards. Cool. So kind of just building off of that. Also, look at this really cool GIF I found. I could stare at it for hours. But kind of like the three core things you want to iterate is like emotional empathy. Like everyone on your team is people first. They're going through school, and most likely they will prioritize school over half for impact. So just understanding they have midterms, they have finals, they have stress, they have life. So keeping like their time availability in mind, making sure like just to frequently check in. I think like that's just make sure like establish like a clear communication and like build a supportive environment. And just a great way to do that is like icebreakers and team bonding like this. I feel like now I've bonded with all of you, and I think like just stuff like that so people know they can come to you with any questions they have, and they'd feel comfortable sharing like, oh, maybe this week I can't contribute as much, but the week after that I'll work twice as hard because they do like really value and want to make sure like you get the job done. Just also it's really important to establish a main communication channel. We highly recommend Slack, I think just because everyone half our impact is already in Slack. And correct me if I'm wrong, are people not part of Cal Poly able to join Slack too now?
feel like they can.
'Cause
I
last
feel like they
year-
added that feature recently.
Yeah, because last year we couldn't add nonprofits to Slack. So we created a Discord, but that was like really hard to communicate. So ideally, like add your nonprofit to your Slack group. And that way anyone can ask questions at any time. And then also kind of touched on this a bit earlier, but establishing a fixed meeting time, like saying like, oh, we'll meet every week at this time, like makes everyone accountable. And also keep in mind you are dealing with college students and they tend to procrastinate. So if you say like, this will be due Monday night, they will start working on it Sunday night or Monday morning. So just making sure, and then like if on Monday you're like, oh, we'll push it back one day, then they'll start working on it a day later. So obviously like people have stuff going on, but just knowing that they are college students and they probably have the same schedules as most of us do. We'll make sure your project is done on time.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, that kind of wraps up the meat, yeah, the soft skills of the session. And just to reiterate, I kind of forgot to say this message, but it's like throughout this whole course, we want to work with the nonprofit and not for the nonprofit. Again, like to emphasize our responsibility, we are like the main communicators, and this should be like a collaborative effort between both parties. And if something doesn't go wrong, something doesn't go right on one side, the other side should know, and so on and so forth, vice versa. But yeah, it's just communication is key. But anyways, so that's our first boot camp session. And I just wanted to take some time to let you know of like the future timeline and like kind of the other topics we'll be going over. So we finished this first one. And the next one is explaining the tech stack. So if like some of you may not know like the technical backgrounds like of what the developers are doing, because right now they'll be doing the tech MERN stack, and all of these like technical concepts related to that might be pretty hard to explain to nonprofit people, especially if they don't have any technical knowledge as well. So we'll be going through like how to approach these concepts in a, easy to understand manner, and also how to understand what features they request are feasible and not. So you can like kind of have more confidence in saying and like promising the nonprofits certain features. And then next, we'll be introducing PRDs, which is very important. And we'll also be introducing our bootcamp project. And it's a two-parter. So after the first part, we'll do a little review as we introduce OKRs, which is objectives and key results. And then we also introduce product roadmaps, which is something you should definitely work alongside your tech lead when you do get assigned to a team. And then that's when you also work on the second part of the project. And then afterwards is the KPI, so just key performance indicators, and then the final project review. And then in between those last two meetings is when we are introducing the nonprofits in the second general meeting. And you as product managers will actually be assigned to the nonprofits earlier than the developers, just so you can have time to meet with them beforehand, get to fully know the scope, the problems that they want to address. And so you have time to also prepare the PRDs before any development occurs. And then we'll kind of help you out in the last session with the measuring the impact and the call guide, which is like, how do you even structure the first call with them? So we'll help you out on that. But yeah, that's the general timeline. We'll definitely let you know if, updates happen, but these are our resources. A lot of our resources are from the national board, but we also have our PM Bootcamp Notion page, which should be a link in the Cal Poly's public Notion. And there's a link. I feel like they're also going to be posting it in the Slack general chat. And
if not memorize it, you can type it into your
yeah, just type in that whole thing. That's where we'll be posting all of the slides and the recorded sessions, as well as any other resources that we think are helpful. And also we have a PM's channel on Slack, so please join it, CP-PMS or PMs. And we really just hope it'll be a good source for like not only to have like updates among each other and like bootcamp stuff, but also like during development, if you ever like run across any troubles or just like, I don't know, just want to talk to other PMs, I feel like this would be a great channel for it. So yeah, please join those too. And you got any questions?
Will you guys be working with us with groups this year, or will you guys be higher up?
So yeah, it's mainly you guys as product managers working directly with the nonprofits, and we'll just, yeah, we'll be kind of like overseeing, like definitely like checking in on you guys and seeing if you may need help. That's another part. We definitely do encourage asking for help if you need it. We definitely don't want anyone to feel like left in the dark or like feel like they're not supposed to ask for help, because, you know, we do.
Something you want to change from last year, we want to like maybe implement like monthly meetings where like we meet all together, talk about progress. And I know like sometimes it's scary to talk about progress because sometimes like nonprofit teams like will talk about how far they've gone, and only the people who have gone really far talk about how far they've gone. So everyone just sits there like, yikes, I'm not even close to being done. But every other team feels that way. So just being transparent and open will make sure we can give you the help you need.
And how did it go for you guys last year?
Yeah, it was so much fun. I learned a lot, but definitely at the end, like, there was a lot of like time put in to make sure we finished.
Yeah. We were in the same team. Yeah. And I was a developer under, she was the tech lead. But I mean, I had a great experience. It was probably way more stressful on your end.
Yeah, I learned so much.
Mhm.
Definitely, I can talk in front of crowds now without being terrified. That's the main thing I learned.
Yeah. But yeah. Have any additional questions? Very good. All right. Well, that's it for our first bootcamp session. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And it was super nice getting to know everyone. Again, we will definitely post these slides and any resources. But until then, the next bootcamp session is Monday, also 6:10 p.m. And it'll be about doing the tech stack. Hi.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
say something real quick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Cool.
we're all good. Thank you so much. I'm ending the recording.